Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Disco Elysium with me. Bring it on. Let's check this stuff out.
Books and magazines lie scattered on the floor and on a makeshift cupboard. They are not particularly well organized.
Sift through them.
Most are soft covers, serialized fantastique and detective stories from the 20s and 30s. This disparate digest includes the classic Animal Adventures. Popular depictions of man versus nature by amateur naturalists T&T Harpin, husband and wife. Widely read by people from all walks of life. Who doesn't like nature? Who doesn't want to survive? Among what is mostly commercial fiction and serialized stories, you find a magazine cathodique for electrical engineering. Then it's back to pulp. Light erotica, an international thriller about circuit benders.
Someone's made themselves a home.
The lieutenant inspects a soft cover. We have a low chance, but we can always put a point into it. But first, let's dress for the occasion.
Soft covers, serialized fantastique and detective stories. Animal Adventures, a magazine for electrical engineering and an international thriller. Also, light erotica and some historical novels from the century past.
Alright, does anything stand out as unusual?
Oh yes, under the bed, there is a rather extensive collection of critical theory, that is, dour, life non-affirming left-wing literature, published by small imprints such as Abattoir Firm and Ouzia. It's not exactly like reading.
Well, I want to have an opinion. It makes things more fun. Let's do this one. We've had a lot of communist stuff already, so let's do 3. Look, Kim, tell me dribble for people who can't get crap done.
Ouzia. I agree. Humanitarian sciences. It stands out. Not a lot of critical theory around in Havashul West.
Enunciates the words diligently.
Your incendiary remark has failed to provoke him.
Critical theory books. What do you think this means?
Again, I am not a philosopher, but whoever has lived here, they have some education and a certain set of interests.
Interesting.
Well, I'm not a big fan of this scarf either. It looks a little silly. Kind of goes with this outfit though. We'll keep it on for now.
You see a small metal door nested inside a larger one. A heavy steel blast door. There is a conventional keyhole above the handle. It's very small.
What's on the other side?
Another part of the island, probably. The lock looks like it could still be usable.
The lieutenant looks into the keyhole. How do we open this?
Maybe this is one of the doors we don't open?
He looks at the door, then its bigger brother, then at the lock.
He's right. It would be better to open its big brother. A powerful engine hangs under the ceiling. It must control the blast door.
You're right. We open the big one. Do you see controls anywhere?
I think there's a console just southeast. Let's look around. Getting the blast door open seems like the best plan.
He shuffles his feet to stay warm. But before we do that, let's just take a peek down here. What is this? The stairs hold money and morale.
Green paint flicks off the monoblock aluminium cabinet. There are rows of switches on the front panel, a frequency band, and even a keyboard.
Run your fingers across the keyboard.
The keys rattle like teeth. This keyboard hasn't been functional in decades.
What is this then?
The console of an anti-computation device. The generator upstairs, with wires coming out, they terminate here.
The lieutenant points to the wires running to the machine. Could this open the blast door?
Possibly. Urgence, ouvert, allumé, radiodiffusé. It sounds like this device was used to control the electronics here. Maybe it still does.
He inspects the dials.
This device was used to control the electronics in the room. It could open doors, control lights, function as a radio computer.
Turn emergency open.
We need to restore power before using this, officer. The generator, it didn't look like there was fuel in it.
Nothing happens, and he looks upstairs.
We should look around outside. There are barrels all over. Maybe one of them still has something in it.
He looks into the dim light to his right.
The boat engine.
Or we could get some from the boat engine.
But officer, then we would have to swim back to the mainland. Let's just look around, okay?
He looks you in the eye.
The consul stands by, mutely. Urgence ouvert reads a dial key. Allumé reads another. The frequency band says, radio diffuser.
Push light interior. I know it's not going to do anything.
Nothing happens.
Yeah, and slide the radio dial.
The dial slides under the glass, silently. You make out defunct stations on the UKV frequency. The words, Feld Insula, are written on the band.
Insular. This is an off-air radio computer, I believe, used for military communications.
Lieutenant leans in to inspect the cursive writing.
It's an air-gapped system, an off-air military model. Its circuits are nearly impossible to bend, i.e., it cannot be remote-controlled.
Oh. Water rushes below, far down below. Alright, on the hunt for some oil. A firing slit. You can't see inside. It must have been a direct hit to take out such a large chunk. It isn't the sound of cargo ships. Signal horns echo on the water. The pain in your pelvis makes you wince. Then you continue. Inside of the fortress, make out the console and the blast door.
A strange feeling, looking at the water. Maybe you should just wander off into the sea, leave it all, and walk in.
Why?
Perhaps there's someone there, under the water, waiting for you, where it has always been. Maybe you know it's going to hurt.
But it's cold.
Yes, cold and still. But love is warm, like the inside of her mouth.
No, 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 no.
Yes, 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 yes. No, we're not starting with that. Not now, not this time. This thought is over.
Raise your sight.
In the snow-in mirror of the bay, you see Martinez, reflected. Tall edifices of ruins reach into the water, like shimmering towers. And the shacks too. Pine trees and motor lorries, upside down. Islets and posts, like stepping stones, lead into the water in front of you. Go. Step in. It's been too long.
Shake your head. The winch is broken. Russ has eaten what remains of the chain. So that is as far as we go. Looks like there's a little path over there. The depot that supplied this chain is long gone from the coast. A weathered artillery map showing coordinates of the bay and the Bay of Revachol. No medicine cabinet, newly stocked with Dramine. I can barely see. So +3 health from the Dramine and some money.
There's a rain-soaked mattress on a concrete slab, only half covered by the crumbling roof. At the head of it, double embrasures, firing slits like two eyes in the wall.
B triple prime. This looks like a good place to shoot from.
Lieutenant lowers his voice, stepping closer with his hand on his gun. Inspect the mattress.
A single-person mattress, modern, civilian use. Brand name, Marjorie. There's a fuel stain on the cover, along with cigarette burns. And an empty can of beans on the ground next to it, filled to the brim with cigarette butts.
Pick one out of the can.
The silhouette of a tobacco picker adorns the paper filter. The brand, Tio Moteri.
Is that the brand that we saw next to the radio tower at Land's End?
Contemporary Revacholians prefer Juan, a local blend from the southern islands, or Astra, the legendary cigarette from Grad. Tio Moteri is favored by older men for its paper filter tips, sweet smell, and added tar.
Tia Materi, like the ones we found at Land's End, remember?
I may have been wrong when I said it wasn't important. This means the same person could have visited both locations.
He stares into the can for a second.
I didn't see any signs of smoking inside, though. If people live there, they keep it tidy. This here may also be a smoking spot.
Inspect the wall.
There's a firing slit in the wall in front of you, like a little window.
Touch the concrete first.
Quite old and grimy from years without cleaning by anything other than the rain.
Look through the hole in the concrete.
The springs screech as you lean on the mattress and crane your neck to look out. Trepidation, a tingling feeling in your stomach. A small piece of Martinez coastline opens up in the square in front of you, like a tiny landscape painting. 1 kilometer across the water, the ruins look familiar.
On the left.
A towering skyscraper, its top floors shaved off by artillery fire. Capeside apartments. Rue de Saint-Ghislain, 33A and 33B.
On the right.
The red chimney and collapsed back of the 4-story tenement in front of the Whirling in Rags, Rue de Saint-Ghislain, 10. The doomed commercial area.
In between the two.
The box-shaped silhouette of the Whirling in Rags. You see a small fleck of white on the rooftop, the upstairs window of Clausia's room, in the snow, reflecting light.
There it is.
Do you have a line of sight to the window?
Yes, there's an opening between 33A and 10. I can see to the roof.
I can see it. Through the scope of a rifle. The shooter would be prone, lying on the mattress, barrel resting on the embrasure.
He nods.
Cheek against the cheek rest, hand on the hair trigger, on a calm day like this.
Kim, I can make it. I can make the shot.
Good. I think we have it, Detective. The origin of the shot. This is the sniper's nest.
He pats you on the back. Three small pats in a row.
Affirmative.
Better late than never.
Nothing pointed here. Many leads pointed elsewhere.
He nods. 7 people are dead.
Don't beat yourself up, officer. We did not put guns in their hands or get them drunk.
He looks north, over the fortification, then adds.
The lieutenant pauses. Regret comes over him.
We will make up for it. Here. I feel it.
Could the shooter still be here?
Where?
He looks behind his back. On this island.
He does not answer, just nods. With his back hunched, he looks around once more and says,
We should move now.
Alright, and there is our loom fuel canister. There's still some fuel in this battered canister, a liter or two. Metal looks decades old. The logo of the automotive manufacturer Elysium has faded on the side. You feel eyes on your back. Someone's watching, but you can't say where. That doesn't bode well. If he can make a kilometer shot across the bay, then he can probably shoot anything on this island. I've already been shot. Well, I guess I've been shot twice. I was gonna say once, but it was twice.
This old cylindrical generator waits with its fuel cap open. Makeshift electrical wiring runs out of its side and across the floor.
Pour fuel into the tank.
The lieutenant assists you, holding the canister up to the fuel tank as you tilt. Dark brown, viscous fluid pours out, and the room fills with a chemical smell. There's a red starter switch on the side of the cylinder and a start rope on the other side. The lieutenant flicks the switch.
Pull the rope.
The recoil start wakes the old generator up. The machine sputters like an old warhorse before settling down to a rattle.
That should do it.
Alright, so we're about halfway to another level up. How many points do I have saved up? 4. How close am I to finishing this thought? Hour and 10 minutes to go. Well, looks like we might get it. I was concerned the game was going to end well before I had a chance to finish that, but we've still got plenty to do, it seems.
A dim golden glow animates the console. Faint, like a ghost light. Urgence ouvert reads one dial key. Allumer reads another.
It's on. Turn emergency open.
He smiles.
Automatic boot.
Turn emergency open.
The blast door opens with a series of clicks. A shaft of light appears, then widens as the light shines in.
After you.
Lieutenant gestures at the opening. Before, outside, we were walking across the sand. I felt someone watching me.
So did I. Not back there, but I felt it since we came here.
What's there? Point to the door.
I don't know.
What if we get into another fight?
Don't worry. I have a gun.
He takes out his sidearm, checks the barrel, then holsters it again. I also have a gun, but I don't have any bullets, because he shot the second one. I shot the first one.
I know. It was not easy to acquire.
Let's go. Can I activate the other stuff?
Dim golden glow animates the console. Faint, like a ghost light. Urgence ouvert reads one dial key. Allumer reads another.
Alright, push light interior.
The lighting in the room turns on with a sizzle, a dim ambient orange.
Then slide radio dial.
The dial slides under the dusty glass, dark and silent, despite the power being on. You make out defunct stations on the UKV frequency. The words, failed insula, are written on the band.
Insular. This is an...
It's an air-gapped system.
Alright, so we can't interact with the radio. Nothing new to do there. Alright, what is beyond the blast door? Walk slow. It might be dangerous. So I shouldn't run. He keeps telling me I shouldn't run between the wound and, well, now saying I should go slow. So I'm going to listen to the game. Rubber dinghy. It's deflated. Broken. Small white flowers blossom all around you. The, what are they called? The Maybells? Also, we haven't had a use for this yet. The game said I'd probably have a use for this, and that's yet to come up.
An old man wearing tracksuit trousers leans on the frame stock of his rifle. He gathers a big ball of spit in his mouth, then spits it out into the extinguished fire before him. He raises his black eyes, hooded by creased eyelids, to meet yours. Unclouded by cataracts, his eyesight is sharp. He's practically tearing up from spite. Hatred got the best of him a long time ago. This man hates everything.
Are you the fire guy?
The what now? I can't hear you.
He cups his ear. Did you recently tell 2 kids to put out their fire? 2 twins.
I may have. All sorts of little rats have come sniffing around, trying to give up the position. Fire guy. Regressive bourgeoisie henchman. Can't even talk like a grown-up.
Bourgeoisie, that's how you pronounce it. Thank you, the deserter. He shakes his head. You retained your eyesight.
My eyesight? Yes. Helps me see all the shit.
He clears his throat. Did you close the blast door?
I did. And you opened it. How?
He breathes out with a wheeze. I feel the generator, then use the console.
I should have burned that console down.
He shakes his head. How did you know I was coming?
Reactionary rock and roll music. Playing on the water.
He gestures north.
Told you we shouldn't play sad FM.
But you didn't say that, Kim.
I did.
We have entered a world where he said you shouldn't. It is the only world.
It was not rock and roll. It was sad FM.
Sad FM, huh? I always hated that station. Phlegmatic, counter-revolutionary dirges. Sadness is a mental illness. A weapon of the bourgeoisie. The fascists were right about rock and roll. It is degenerate. Hip gyrating, mental illness music.
Nice gun you got there.
It's not nice. It's a piece of shit. But it gets the job done.
He shrugs. Is that a Bell McGrave?
It's a 3-Angong 446.
Southeast Samaran made. Exotic. Must be defunct too. No modern rifle manufacturer of that name springs to mind.
A Samaran rifle. How did you get hold of one?
It was sent to us by our brothers in the Sinyao commune. Military aid.
He pats the rifle.
It has stayed true to him. He can still make it sing.
The Sinyao commune.
You heard me. It's good now. Like chalk wiped from the board.
His gaze turns inwards. You want me to stay true to you. Might I stay true to me too? Put your hand on your belt.
Yes. I bet you've killed a lot of people with it. You fascist fuck.
I think only 4. I only had three kill counts according to my sticker, the hollow shoot, whatever it's called. And then I killed shot the one guy in the mouth. His eyes narrow.
Have you come to make me one of them?
His grip on the rifle tightens.
We have come to ask you questions. Nothing more.
Lieutenant puts his hand on his holster.
If you do not comply, we will take you in. Do you understand?
Another spitball lands in the ashes. That's all the answer he gives.
Sir, I need you to put down that gun so we can talk further. We're the police.
The lieutenant pulls his pistol from the holster.
You are a glorified night watchman. This is a service rifle. I can only lay it down before an enemy commander of corresponding rank.
I didn't have that darn clipboard in my hand. Where's authority at? I only put 1 point into it. Give it our best shot. I am an enemy commander of rank. Put it down.
It's a good line, but your voice slips on commander, producing a little squeak. Sounds like you're afraid.
A big-time operator of the pederast army. How about I keep it, huh? Hand it over to a real killer. A Briscard.
The lieutenant aims his pistol square at the man's forehead.
Put it down now, sir.
Or you're gonna blow my brains out before you question me. To hell with it. It's a walking stick anyway.
There's a moment's silence.
It's out of bullets.
The old man lays the rifle down carelessly, then looks at it lying there.
Like an amputated limb in the sand. He stares on, his wrinkled mouth moving without a sound. A strange sadness, like a song.
What did you say?
The future teaches you to be alone.
The present.
The present.
The present to be afraid and cold.
The old man pulls back the hood of his plastic cape and looks up into the sky. It's blue-gray, the same color as the sea. Those words, the future teaches you.
Real music. Real Proletkult. That's La Revacholière, not your rock and roll misanthropy. Chanson de soldat of the black and whites.
He nods.
You need to address that remark.
I'm not a misanthrope. I'm a half-dead police officer who's just doing his job.
The job of a shitlicker.
What is La Revacholière?
It is the anthem of the world revolution. One of 3.
His eyes remain fixed on the sky.
In Grad, they sang brave children, favorites of history. And in Sinyao, it was some Samaran shit, I guess.
He struggles to remember, then gives up. La Revacholière. I've heard that name somewhere else. In a dream.
Everyone has. They named a fucking perfume after it.
No, that's not it. I've talked to her.
Talk to her?
He raises his bushy brow and looks down from the sky, straight into your bloodshot eye. Yes, in the church. Point southwest.
God, shithouse. Should have taken it down like they did in Grad. Dismantled it for firewood.
He chortles. How does it go? The song.
How did it go?
He looks at his gun on the ground and shakes his head slowly.
Something about shooting rabbits. I don't know. I can't remember. It doesn't matter. It's gone now.
He waves erratically with his hand, annoyed that he can't remember. A little tremor passes through him. It was dear to him. He resents forgetting it.
Pick up the gun lying in the sand.
His gaze follows your motions. The rifle feels surprisingly light in your hand. Frame stocked and patched in places with tape and wire. Still warm from his parched hands. Not the metal. The metal is ice cold. This weapon has been modified several times.
Inspect it closer.
The rifle's in a shabby state, like a crutch that's seen too much travel. Hieroglyphs are embossed into the forearm, made of walnut. On the butt, you see Vespertine writing, burnt into the wood. Triangon, 4.46mm, made in Sinyao.
It's as he said. It's a triangon made in Sinyao.
No one said it has to be a Belmagrave. We were just guessing.
The lieutenant does not take his eyes off the old man.
From ballistics, it could easily have been a triangon, too.
Yeah, there was a second weapon we speculated it to be. Was it a triangon? The Belmagrave was just the one that we assumed because we found one.
It doesn't matter if it was made in Shanty Shanty. All it has to do is use jacketed ammunition. And it does.
Yeah, this uses jacketed ammunition. 4.46.
The right type and the right calibre.
Lieutenant nods, glancing at the gun.
He's liking this.
The rifle has been patched and modified several times.
I wonder how old it is.
The old man does not answer. He just stares in front of him.
Stow the gun.
The old man keeps following your motion with his gaze. His right arm twitches suddenly. This looked very much like the murder weapon. It could be used against him to get a confession. In time.
Who are you?
My name is Joseph Lilianovich Dross, Political Commissar of the 114th Anti-Aircraft Division of the 4th Army of the Commune of Revachol.
He looks across the water, then back at you.
I am a deserter, a partisan, and a prisoner of war. This is my termless surrender.
His eyes turn to the reeds again, dead and dull.
The commune of Revachol? Do you mean the ICM? You're a holdover from the...
Lieutenant forgets to close his mouth.
From the Insular Indian Citizens Militia, the Army of the Revolution. I was recruited in Jamrock in '07, trained in the École de Contrôle Orient, and consigned to emergency defense duties in '08. I left my unit on the eve of the landing. When I returned here on May 14th, the commune had fallen. Still armed and ideologically trained, I wrote a criticism of myself and resumed partisan duties.
51 minus 8 equals 43.
You've been on this island for 43 years.
No. I've been on other islands, too.
He looks into the fire. A wisp of smoke rises from somewhere between the charred logs.
I was in Resurrection until they turned it into a spa in 18. Then I was an E-48, a nameless sound, until the sea washed over it. Then I came back here. That was 22 years ago.
He thinks. Again, you've been hiding here for 43 years.
43 years and 10 months.
Oh, that's steadfast.
It's not how a human being should live. But I had to. I couldn't just forget. I couldn't just forget what I saw.
He grimaces, clearly in pain.
He just couldn't.
You couldn't give up.
He nods. But he can now.
What have you been doing during all this time?
Hiding, fishing, waiting.
He looks across the water.
Always waiting. Always.
For what?
For her to return.
Her who?
Girl child. Revolution.
I come from there. Point to the mainland. I can assure you, that is not what the people are planning.
I am not a fool. I know. The material base for an uprising has eroded. The working class has betrayed mankind.
He blinks his black eyes.
The historic opportunity for a revolution has passed. It will not come back anymore, however hard I try, whatever I do.
You said you deserted your unit.
I was just 16 years old, 15 when I volunteered. I had a lapse of faith. And of courage, too.
He clears his throat. Lapse of faith.
You could say I misunderstood the historic role of the proletariat and thought Mazovian socioeconomics were fallible. For a second, I doubted the irreducible laws of historic materialism. A second is all it took.
For what?
For reaction to take hold.
What's reaction?
Petty bourgeois terror. It's in all men.
It wasn't reaction. You were just afraid.
It's the same thing. You haven't seen it. Not really. Not naked. It's impossible not to be afraid.
And this was... when?
Lieutenant instinctively looks to his notebook, but does not take it out.
May the 13th, '08. 44 years ago. The horizon was black with coalition airships. Their petroleum rose to the sky, and it looked like it formed the clouds. Storm clouds. When they started shelling, it was dark magic.
He looks north. Dark magic.
The combined might of international capital, all at once, all the greed and terror in the world tore into Revachol. It lifted streets from the ground and turned houses into ghosts. We were in the flak tower,
He gestures toward it.
huddled on the floor. The artillery was 80 kilometers away in Ozon, but I knew the commune would fall. We would all be turned into ash. So I said I was going to the map room.
He looks east.
A terrible shame, still within him. The lobes of his ears are red with it. The shame and smallness of what he became.
You didn't go to the map room.
No. I climbed the chain link across the water and hid inland, in the bunkers there, like the weakest of the weak. A mouse, frightened of the ordnance all night, and the sound of the rotors in the morning, whirring.
He looks at the sky. What was that?
Airships. I climbed out into hell. The landing was complete. The chain was submerged. I had to swim back. The fortress was half submerged too, shattered.
He closes his eyes.
They'd all drowned in the lower levels, or got torn to shreds above. The anti-aircraft gun had malfunctioned. So had I. I left them without ideological direction. It was real. I'd seen it. I'd seen it in reality.
He opens his eyes and stares right through you. Seen what?
The mask of humanity fall from capital. It has to take it off to kill everyone, everything you love. All the hope and tenderness in the world. It has to take it off just for 1 second to do the deed. And then you see it, as it strangles and beats your friends to death. The sweetest, most courageous people in the world. You see the fear and power in its eyes. Then you know.
He's silent for a second. What?
That the bourgeois are not human.
Say nothing. Let him finish.
I had to. I had to fight it. I had to never stop.
The old man falls silent. His black eyes keep piercing your skin as he looks to some great distance behind you, shaking his head slowly, retreating from it. What is this place? This island?
It's not an island, Dwat. It's a defensive fortification of the commune of Revachol. And I am its last surviving defender.
He looks around. What was it used for?
The congenitally deformed King Philip II built it to restrict access to the Bay of Revachol. We captured it in '02, retrofitted the fort with an AA gun to defend against an airborne landing. Against the whole world.
You mean the landing? Retaking of Revachol?
Coalition military called it Operation Deathblow. I later found out on the radio they called it
He winces.
Deathblow. You're one of them. Tell me, who speaks like that? We had 50 million people on Caillou alone.
Coalition military.
Iblis,
He shakes his head and says, Iblis.
the black-eyed angel.
He nods. Have you survived all this time?
How does anyone survive? I steal.
He looks at his worn running shoes. What do you steal?
Supplies, vegetables. I collect rainwater. It's the life of a dog, not a human being.
He winces, and then he coughs once more and puts his hand on his belly.
How is your health, Mr. Dross?
I've been throwing up blood since winter. Red, like beetroot. Been passing it in stew, too.
He does seem frail. Gaunt for his age. More like 75 than 65. Trouble putting on weight could mean cancer.
The RCM can provide medical services. You need to be looked over.
I need to die. You don't have medical facilities. You have guns. That's all they give you. Toy guns.
A droll smile stretches across his mouth. We have Dramamine and other opioid-based painkillers. You must be in pain.
I have been running out of that stuff.
A light goes on in his eyes. He smacks his dry lips.
There's no way he could manage the pain without them. It's safe to say he is addicted to painkillers by now.
You like that Dramamine, don't you?
It's the little joys. A dark joke, a sunshiny day, morphine.
A crooked smile appears on his face. Yeah, this is a serious situation. You need to be looked over, and we can do it.
There's nothing to look over. The triage is in, and it's black. Administer morphine. Moribund.
How have you coped mentally?
I haven't. I have holes in my brain. Years missing. Others filled with pain only. A decade of...
His eyes roll into his skull and back.
I don't even know what. Inferno?
I also have holes in my brain. Point to your head. Wait, you notice the lieutenant is about to say something.
I would imagine it gets tremendously difficult, mentally, to live in isolation.
Traitors. It's better alone. I watch the people of this city turn the lights back on, more and more each year. Ruins, glimmering in the dark, like a fucking merry-go-round.
He nods towards Martinez.
It's disgusting.
He looks down at his shoes, his face parched from the sun and the wind. There's a wince of pain in there somewhere.
Are they not heartbroken? How could they have moved on?
Have you considered yourself all these years?
It was hard in the tens. I didn't have partisan training. They were searching for stragglers, those bloodhounds. Floodlights on the water at night.
He shakes his head, then he closes his eyes.
There were posters, campaigns.
We communards still hoped, and they needed to snuff that hope out. The East capitulated. Martinez and Cold City were turned to dust. But Jamrock, Forburg, even Coron, and Boogie Street, of course. Those fucking kips had Marsov coursing through their veins.
He looks south.
And others too. Some cordons of Revachol was still fighting. There were cells. I tried to contact them. Soon they all went silent. The frequency's dead.
He shakes his head. How do you get between here and the mainland?
At night, I used a dinghy. I only went after dark then. When I got to the city, I stayed underground. Patrols, you lot, the commons too. They'd started snitching.
He nods towards the deflated tire in the reeds.
In the city, you move underground?
From bunker to bunker. Not anymore. No one cares now. I don't even have to hide. They think I'm another antisocial vagrant. I could walk straight into that town if I wanted.
He nods. Then he falls silent, his gaze fixed on the shacks huddled together across the water. Why don't you just walk there?
I don't want to. They're all traitors. Pigs, rabbits, and dogs. Men without ideals are only animals.
He does not want to see life moving on. People forgetting, drinking, laughing.
The weapons cache under Sangiz Lane, 22B. Point to it. In the basement. Have you been there?
So you finally found it. There must have been a small squadron's worth of arms in there. Elmer Graves, right?
He looks at you, then pulls the raincoat tied around his neck. They were damaged beyond use.
I know.
So you've been there?
Sleeping. Some nights. Ammo scrounging on others. Those McGraves were shit, even before they corroded. Some had bullets in the chamber, however.
He coughs.
You feel the dots connecting. Little dots on the map he's walked across.
There's a small bunker under the Feld building. Have you stayed there?
The propaganda bunker. I used to, but not anymore.
He coughs.
Propaganda bunker?
They stored leaflets there. Broadcasting equipment, too. Made broadcasts, I think. Propaganda officers. I buried them with their leaflets. They killed themselves. 2 young boys.
Killed themselves.
A lot of our boys did. I spent some winters there. Never liked it. Kept thinking of them. No need to go underground anymore. It's better in the ruins, on the ground.
He stares at the ruins of the fell building. One more question. Do you smoke Tiamatiri cigarettes?
I do.
He coughs. Ever smoked them on the mainland? Point to Land's End.
They're good. Plenty of tar. I like that boy on the pack, too. Reminds me of the last century.
He nods. Tell me another thing.
An old man looks inland at the city, the ruins, the motorways rising above it, the new bâtiment twinkling in the evening sky.
You said this is your termless surrender.
You're with the RCM, the coalition-appointed mob that enforces bourgeois morals in Revachol.
He waves in your general direction. We're not coalition appointed. We just try to help people.
You're the RCM. You represent the Moralist International, the enemies of humanity who took this city. I represent their adversary, le Parti Communiste d'Insolande.
He stares at you coldly.
Take me to them as a prisoner of war. I have relinquished my weapon. I can no longer serve. No superiors can relieve me of my duty. You bulldoze them all to a mass grave for trying to free humanity.
His hand shakes and he breaks into a coughing fit.
A spray of blood from his mouth on the black charcoal in the fire pit. Rene, the royalist on the coast, said,
The Communards signed the Revolutionary Instrument of Surrender.
Liberal reactionaries signed that instrument. Traitors who should have been burned alive. I answer to the Communist Party.
He draws his breath.
Is that part of why you've been here all this time? Because the party didn't surrender?
He just wipes the blood from his chin.
It's honorable in its own way.
Honor is a feudal atavism. My motive is class.
He looks at the fire pit. So you're a communist soldier from the communist army.
No, I am not a soldier. I am an ideological officer. I belong to the party, not the army.
You said you were trained and assigned to the Defense Corps.
Trained in historical materialism, then assigned as a political commissar by the party. These things used to mean something.
He nods. Wait, what does a political commissar do?
The old man does not answer. He tilts his silver head and looks at the reeds. You see a small tremor pass through his legs.
His job was to assure the army answers to civilian control and follows the ideology of the Commune.
Lieutenant says softly.
Scientific communism. A commissaire politique is a night philosopher of the revolution, a future human.
The tracksuit-clad old man is suddenly reanimated.
He was like a cleric, a shepherd.
So you're like a priest.
No, the opposite of that. A future human, not a human of the past.
He shakes his head. That means you're a trained communist, right?
He nods slowly. Then another tremor.
Yeah, I'm not really into politics myself.
You're inert lumpen with a gun.
Detective, we have not come here to discuss ideology.
Lieutenant gives you a stern look. Then he turns to the old man.
We have come to ask questions regarding a murder investigation.
The old man spits into the fire pit. He does not say anything more. A jitter passes his lower body. There's definitely something off with his body. Something more than just metabolism, or even cancer.
I have another serious question for you.
There's nothing serious in this world. It's a farce.
What have you been using this gun for?
I've used it for killing people.
Killing people?
It's a gun. That's what they're for. You want a moralist euphemism? Defending your family and your property. I haven't done that. I've used it to kill people.
Interesting. During or after the war?
Lieutenant nods.
There is no after the war. Class war is never over.
He shakes his head and smiles, his teeth rotten black.
So he's continued killing after hostilities ended. Okay, okay. Go in straight. No euphemisms. He doesn't like those. No. Be careful now. Slow and steady does it. Make him repeat it first. Don't mess this up. Remember, he wants to tell you. Get personal.
I know you want to tell me. Have you killed anyone with that gun in the last week or two?
I don't want to tell you anything, you grotesque murderer.
And why did you think that was a good idea? Don't listen to me. I'm wrong all the time.
Did you use that gun to shoot and kill a colonel of the security contractor Cornell?
The who now?
He leans in and cups his ear.
He heard you. He just wants to hear you say it again. This is dramatic flair on his part. Right choice. We're in. Do it, sire.
His name was Ellis Courtenay. He was part of a security detail here in Martinez.
Oh yes, that one. Ugly piece of work, that boy.
He looks up at the sky and clacks his tongue.
Did you kill him?
Lieutenant takes a sudden step toward him.
I am a son of a welder and an officer of the commune of Revachol. I do not collaborate with murderers and pederasts of the liberal regime.
He spits a big one at the lieutenant's feet.
Exhaust him with proof. Pile it all on him. Get a confession. The gun. The murder weapon is the perfect opener. The scent of blood in the air. But what else? There was something you can't remember. Something about the tracks. Suddenly, all those tracks are so confusing. Go with something else first.
I don't need your cooperation. I've got this. Show him the Triangong 446.
Not a lot of guns around that use military-grade ammunition, are there?
It's a real gun, not like your little musketeer pistols. I've seen you prance around with those, jumping hoops for the liberals.
He points to the lieutenant's holster.
You look like imbeciles. Why don't you ask them to give you real weapons? Going against automatic rifles with these toy guns. Of course you got those boys killed.
He chortles.
Damn, he saw you. He's watched it happen. He would have a good view of the tribunal from here. It's not just empty boasting. So he saw you. Okay. So what? Don't let it divert you.
We saved a lot of them. Their leader Titus. We handled that situation.
You didn't handle anything. I watched it happen. You let those fucks rip right into them. Got that girl killed, too. None of those people mean anything to you. The vultures feed on this city, and you prepare the meal for them.
You're getting diverted. Push the gun. Only the gun matters.
So you watched the fight? Did you like what you saw? The mayhem. It was all your doing, your plan. You got them killed.
Lieutenant points inland.
You don't know anything.
A twitch runs across the right side of his face as he stares the lieutenant down. Stop changing the subject. We have the murder weapon. Point to it.
You know what? You're right. I'm convinced this made the shot. Should we call it?
Lieutenant looks at the weapon demonstratively. Dramatically ask, you think we have the murder weapon?
4.46 jacketed ammunition, modified for range. We have it. This is it.
He lists. I'm calling it. We have the murder weapon.
Good.
Lieutenant takes out his notebook and draws a single line.
This feels good, doesn't it? Tying things up like this. When you have the murder weapon, you have the killer.
Murder.
The old man does not say more. He just glances into the reeds, then twitches once more.
Like a marionette on some invisible string.
What? We've done the ballistics. Point to the tower. The shot came from this island.
I saw you poking around there, looking for evidence. You're damn diligent when it comes to dead fascies.
A jitter passes him.
Did you like the view?
I didn't mean to interrupt.
You had direct visibility. There are embrasures in the concrete, specifically meant for a top follower to use. And you had a long-range rifle in your possession.
Lieutenant softens his voice.
You've been here a long time, Mr. Dross. Too long. You clearly need medical aid.
I'm ready to die. I've done my part.
The man interrupts him, then coughs.
He's practically admitting to it. Dead fascies for fascists. Done his part.
You said fascies. You're admitting you killed him.
You're sad for your fascia brother, aren't you? One twig got broken. Now the others are sad.
He waves his hand. There's a twitch, then one more in his right eye. Come on, what am I forgetting? Hit yourself on the side of the head. Of your head.
Wait, here it comes. The goddamn Maybells. The dried Maybells on Clausia's roof.
Oh yes.
There were Maybells in the grass when you got here. They're revolutionary symbols from the war. Wait, don't forget the footprints. The diagonal prints in the dust in the secret space behind Clausia's bedroom. Now, they're gonna come up.
Of course. Thank you, Head. Thank you.
You got it. Remember? The boot prints were like no modern soul. Maybe don't beat yourself anymore, though. You're not immortal.
There are Maybells behind the victim's window. Show him the dried flower.
Damn Maybells. The whole island is turning white with them.
He looks at the blossoming field behind you.
He seems tender suddenly. Nostalgic even. A strange mood swing.
So many this year, too. The spring is coming. No, it's already here. Wash the filth away.
I haven't seen these flowers anywhere else in Martinaise. Only here.
They blossom on the islets before. We fertilize them with our blood. Resurrection was snow white in May, before they ruined it.
He looks to the water.
The coast, too, before they piled their containers on top of it, filled with broken, useless trash for fat-fingered bourgeois children to play with.
You must get around a lot to stay undetected all these years. Do you know any secret paths? Pinball workshops?
Lieutenant's voice is soft, friendly.
I may.
A curious tremor passes his face. A young woman called Clausia. Ring any bells? These dried flowers are behind her window.
Clausia.
You know her, right? She had intimate relations with the victim, the mercenary.
With the victim.
He turns his sight from the whitening field of flowers and falls silent. Then the muscles in his jaw twitch, a spasm.
There is a small tremble. Looks like a smile. A crooked smile. Yet isn't quite voluntary. He's about to burst. Don't leave any loose ends. Get him on everything.
I wonder what brand of boots you're wearing.
Everything is brands with you individualists. Who cares what brand my shoes are? Sansa? Some shit.
He looks at his running shoes covered in mud.
Show me the soles, please, Mr. Dross.
Fucking imbecile.
The old man stretches his leg, or out his leg. A black and white spiral pattern covers the sole of the worn-out old running shoes on his feet.
The maker is called Sensorique. You see their V-shaped logo, but can't make out the size. These are not the unusual horizontal pattern soles you saw in the dust on the floor of the hidden room. They do, however, seem to be about the same size.
The size fits, but not the sole.
Lieutenant comes to the same conclusion. Wait, maybe it's simpler than that.
Sire, he doesn't have to be wearing them right now.
People change shoes. Doesn't mean you weren't there, near the room the victim died in, sneaking around.
Racking those brains, are you? Desperate to report something back to your masters? They must have really loved that dead fuck.
He squints at you. black pearls gleaming with hatred.
The lieutenant gives you a quick sideways glance and nods to acknowledge. The prints were his. You can see it in those eyes. He can't keep them from flickering, looking for something. The old man stares at his own prints in the ash around the fire. Silent suddenly, some strange process within him. A gush of wind. Seagulls in the distance.
You know who he was. A coalition-trained murderer, armored and armed. He wasn't human. The blunt end of a hammer, dripping with blood.
He suddenly jerks to life. He was a killer, but he was still under the protection of the law.
Beating us to the ground, moaning with joy. You hounds get so thorough when a company-trained killer dies. I haven't seen you on this coast for 40 years. You know, maybe I should have killed one sooner.
He breathes in with strange animation.
Got your attention. Now you stop beating druggies and prostitutes in your basement. Now you come to investigate. Not when they die by the hundreds.
He looks you dead in the eye, pupils shaking. Then he breathes through his flared nostrils.
This is it. Shot him. Shot him. Say shot him, not killed him.
So you shot him.
Oh, the inhumanity. One paramilitary less in Revachol.
He closes his black eyes. You can almost see him squeeze a tear out of his eye. His fists begin to tremble from the anger.
The lieutenant raises his right arm to hush you, while the lieutenant listens, holding his breath.
Hold your breath.
I had them in my sights. Both of them. Him and the whore. I was breathing with them, in phase. And I pulled the trigger and flew on the air until I landed in his mouth.
He begins to smile.
I didn't think I had a shot like that in me anymore. I did. I saw him kneel there with his mouth full of death, and that stupid look on his face. And his dick still in her.
The smile quivers. Then what?
Nothing. I went to sleep. Next morning there were Maybells everywhere. The world was white, or what's left of it anyway. My last spring here. I knew the fascists would come to avenge their own. And so they did.
Mr. Dross, are you aware you're confessing to murder?
Lieutenant asks after a second of silence.
Yes.
A single word is all he gives.
And you were looking at Dan, the victim and a young woman, having sex, through the scope of your rifle that night, before you shot him?
Lieutenant takes out his notebook, slowly. Very slowly.
The old man nods.
Why?
Because that's what they were doing.
He shrugs, then smacks his lips.
The motive. This is where the motive is going to come from.
I don't understand. Do you, detective? I don't understand this part.
He turns to you. Why were you looking at them that night?
I'm always looking.
He cocks his head to the side, then turns his eyes to the city. Another tremor passes his right side, lower in intensity.
Are you always looking through the scope of a rifle? I'm just trying to understand.
He explains.
A rifle scope has the best magnification.
And if you don't like it?
Click.
You pull the trigger.
Yes. Think of it as a form of critique.
He looks you in the eye.
He will not stop now. These dialectical materialist types never do. Exploit it. You got him going. Connect every little piece now. Wrap this up like a gift.
What specifically did you not like about what you saw the night of the murder?
Them. Fucking. I didn't like that.
He looks at the charred wood. So you were jealous.
Jealousy is a reactionary concept. I didn't like the Reaver enjoying himself. Drugged out, soothed in the arms of a young woman. I wanted him to die so he could not enjoy life anymore. And I wanted to see his head explode. That too. She should know better than to hold a child murderer between her thighs. I knew he'd be there for one more second, writhing.
He nods.
That's all it takes for the bullet to reach his head. Now that I think of it, I wasn't aiming for his mouth. I wanted his brains to spill out on her. But you can't have everything.
He squints, and then he shrugs.
This man has seen past her, like you did. The caliber of bullet he used does not do that kind of damage.
How long had he been watching her?
Since she came to Martinez. I saw her sneaking in the reeds early in the morning, behind the Fell building. It was dark, still winter. She didn't have her skimpy outfit on then, just a spot in the night, moving.
Past the Fell building on the coast? What was she doing there?
Hiding something in the water. She had a fag after she'd done it. I was up in the ruins there. She couldn't see me, but I could see her, smoking. She was nervous, but not scared.
What do you think she hid there?
Her passport and tickets to Villiers. And from there to Cachet Brut.
He coughs.
In the free state of Semonine, hidden away at the edge of the earth, near the Pale.
This is the hidden buoy she told us about. You looked into it.
After she was gone,
He nods.
Did you keep what was in it? When we found the submersible, it was empty.
no. Why would I do that? I didn't need tickets to Villiers. I'd put them back. If I wanted to extort someone, I'd do better.
This implies that he's thought about extorting her. Also, a little inconsistency here. He was surprised to hear her name Clausia before. Would he not have seen it on the documents?
Are you sure? We checked the submersible. There was nothing there.
Why would I need that trash? I'm not going to Villiers.
He looks to the reeds, confused.
A strange confusion comes over him from time to time. Some kind of aberration of the nervous system.
You saw her name on the passport, but before, when I said her name is Clausia, you didn't seem to recognize it.
It didn't say Clausia in there.
He shakes his head. What did it say her name was, in the passport?
It was something. I don't remember. It was dark that morning. I only remember her face on the photo.
He stutters. Moving on. Did you continue watching her after this?
I did. She had a face like an archipelago, with those birthmarks. And a body, hard and lean and bruised all over. Black and yellow. I could see she's taken a beating.
He almost smiles.
I could see who she was, too. A spook. On the run. Revachol's the cloaca of capital now. All the bagmen and arms dealers end up here to do drugs and have sex like animals.
He nods.
You could tell she was a spook? From the documents?
She had different color hair on the photo, and glasses. Forged. Some sordid bourgeois affair. I've heard about this kind of thing on the radio.
He's setting it up for you. The bruises, you can't make that out in a scope.
You can see her bruises through the scope of a rifle.
You can't see bruises through a scope. It's just a blur.
He shakes his silver gray head. Let's play it safe. How does he know those minute details about her body?
It quickly comes to you.
Ever see her through a window on a roof?
Mm-hmm. Bending like a bow against the glass.
He smacks his lips. You've been through the secret route behind the whirling in rags. Those were your footprints. You just changed your shoes.
I've been through all of Martinez. Every nook and cranny.
And that too.
Yes, that too. The things they did in that little room. What she'd do to feel good. Funny the way light works.
He shakes his head, almost in awe. Then he explains.
You turn it on inside, and it gets so dark out, you can't see a man looking in. I learned that in the 20s, when they were still hunting me. I've seen people do some shit, but...
He keeps shaking his head.
Those two took the cake. You hear the familiar scribble of the lieutenant's pen. A quick glance at you.
How did you get in there? The hidden pinball workshop.
Then at the man.
I can just walk in there now after a good wash. I told you, they think I'm an antisocial. Closing hour is a good time. The kitchen's empty.
You had to open the steel door in the kitchen? How?
I got that open a long time ago. Some bourgeois game merchant lived there. I don't know, 15 years ago. He left spare keys all over, and I took one. Then I saw her turn the light on one night in my scope.
He points toward the whirling in rags.
Andy found use for it. A spare key, like the one hanging behind the Union Box window.
Did you have feelings for that woman?
There's nothing to hold on to. Only this. It's not enough.
He sighs.
The coals of his eyes glisten suddenly, like stones dripping with water. Is he crying?
Man needs to feel something else. It helps if you have your eye on something there. Something pretty. It's weakness, I know.
He looks at the city where the lights sparkle. Was that why you left the dried flowers behind her window?
No.
He starts to shake his head again. A sunflower on a withered stalk. Why then?
I don't really know. I was there one night and she was crying, like a child, in the corner of her room on the floor, like she does sometimes.
When was this?
The day after I killed him.
You brought her Maybells.
Yes. I don't know why I do the things I do anymore.
He looks at the charred logs.
It's as if something put the thought there, to leave the flowers.
Something put the thought in you. A compulsion.
What do you mean, put?
He raises his eyes. They're round and wide.
A brief flash of terror.
I just got this feeling, from what you said. Do you agree?
Maybe. I told you, I have holes in my brain now. I wouldn't just sit here, waiting for you.
He lowers his head and just stares at the logs.
If you came 10 years ago, I would have killed you.
He wipes his eye.
In the silence, the lieutenant draws a line in his notes, then nods at you once more.
So in conclusion, it wasn't about him. It was about her.
Her.
He repeats, staring at the ashes, then the reeds. There's a twitch in the corner of his eye.
The lieutenant nods at you in acknowledgement.
Where is she, that Clasier? I haven't seen her there for days.
The old man looks at you. She got away, but she let us here first. She figured out someone is watching her from the seafort.
Gone. I knew it. She kept staring into the scope this last week, at the island, like she knew.
He looks to the city and nods. And then he sighs.
She'd look, at night, crying or smoking on the roof, staring right into me. It doesn't matter.
He adds, to no one in particular.
He knew she knows. She was looking at the island, figuring it out, day by day, cigarette by cigarette.
We could get more. We've got him talking.
Lieutenant uses the opportunity to tell you, in a lowered voice.
Who knows what he's seen and done over the years? Enough. Take him in. Bend his arms behind his back and end this.
Been looking at anything else haven't... Oh, sorry. Been looking at anything else you haven't liked.
A tragic comedy. Druggies, prostitutes, and rentiers.
He shakes to life.
A strange little engine seems to fire up in him again. It straightens his back. The familiar put of hatred.
More specifically,
Specifically, the whole city is a charnel house. Stripped clean and draped in neon. But Martinez is the worst.
He shakes his head in grave disgust. How come?
Because of the racists. Everyone is a racist in Martinez. It's their favorite thing to do in the whole world. Listening to race-themed radio shows. In the ruins, in their lorries.
He points inland.
Pumped full of steroids and Radio Revachol 92. Race this, race that. It's all sanctioned by that Social Democratic Union and the farce of a Social Democrat who runs it.
Mr. Clare.
Yes, the fly larva in his container. He let some nihilistic advertising yuppies erect a statue of Philippe III, a syphilitic murderer, on the town square, to spit on the working class.
Let him finish. Do not interrupt.
Not since the serfs of ancient Pericarnassus has history produced a more inert social class than the Martinez proletariat. The rest of Revachol at least pretends to rebuild. These people still live in ruins. In tents, like animals, like those boom-boom morons on the ice. A pity they didn't drown in that tent of theirs.
He points to the church, and he keeps shaking his head with sorrow for the sight he missed. That all.
The worst of them is the blood-drenched Sucrion on her yacht, licking her lips. The old whore's gone now. Her gun-toting porcelain men are dead. So, actually, no. The worst is that old cop parading around in his uniform, throwing balls all day. It's not enough that the racists and liberals are dancing on our graves. The old loyalist ghouls still parade the ruins too. Every morning he's there, while the parasites he fought to protect are off in Ozon, or Quayamoran, or some other island they built their palaces on, feeding on drugs and having sex with their own children.
Say nothing.
That's all the rich really want. Sex with their own children. Throughout history, even the royal bloodline of the suzerain, it's all just an excuse for them to have sordid sex. At least that old cunt, Frisell, is now dead.
Now, I have some questions about this.
We did good when we pushed him under the horse car. Until, in the 30s, those disco whores.
He breathes in, his breath heavy with hatred. You cannot make out a single word.
The disco whores are too much. Hatred shuts down his brain's language center, leaving only a nonsensical sputter. There was something about a statue and nihilistic advertising agency people. Might be worth investigating. Ask about that cock on parade too. Make sure you get everything here.
Disco whores?
Whores.
Is all he says. Even that word has to be pushed through his teeth with great force. The rage seethes too hard. There is something about the statue on the roundabout, and syphilis.
Syphilis is a disease Philippe III contracted in a whorehouse. The statue is an abomination.
He fires quickly. Abomination.
The bacteria entered his brain and made him squander trillions on sparkling wine, cocainum, and monuments of himself. His son, Philip IV, the insane, contracted syphilis in the womb.
He breathes in with a wheeze of hatred.
That is technically possible, although Philippe III was not actually syphilitic. He was just mad.
And he still went on to govern Revachol for 25 years. We lost 2 million lives toppling that mode of government. And those grotesque statues too. Hundreds of them.
But it's still there.
What a keen remark. Yes, it is, isn't it? It's still there. Do you know why?
He sputters. Because he forgot to take it down.
Forgot? The party had each of the 141 Philippian monuments detonated with plastic explosives. We were pedantic about carrying out the order. No.
He spreads his arms, then he points toward the city.
Some advertising cockroaches used their accumulated capital to erect a new, ironic version of it. Art is a bourgeois establishment. It's an affront to humanity.
He shakes his head in disgust. You mentioned the Union is social democratic. Mr. Clare is a farce of a social democrat.
Another hideous disappointment. Unions are the real enemy. The true enemy of the proletariat. Placating the masses.
He pokes at the ash.
Disappointment. So personal. He displays a familiarity with the Union's top brass.
Who's a disappointment? Everard Clare?
That deformed toad? I wouldn't expect him to wipe his own ass. I mean, the brains of the operation. The smart one.
Edgar.
You mean Edgar, Everard's brother.
He talks a big game about uprising and social base. They must have sent the smart one to some university in Le Jardin, where it's alienation this and hegemony that.
The old man chortles with a nod. You've talked to Edgar.
First against the wall with him.
He stopped poking at the ash now. Just shakes his head.
The Clares wouldn't miss a man hidden in their own backyard. Not all this time. Nothing happens in Martinez without them knowing.
Of course. Maybe the Clears asked him to.
Have you approached them?
I haven't approached anyone. I hid. It was Edgar who came to me.
How did he know you were here?
He didn't just stumble in like an oaf. He figured it out. Some kids told him about a monster on the island. I told you, he has brains.
He nods to you, and he points to the path leading to the tower.
Stepped right off the boat and walked down where you came. I even kept the door open for him. Thought he was a man of the left, wouldn't rat me out. I was right about one of those things.
When was this?
20 years ago. Neither of them could walk now, could they? They were less fat then.
That's around the time the Clears came to power.
What did you talk about?
Edgar did the talking. Paid his respects like I were a fossil in a uniform. Offered platitudes about the struggle. Flaunted his pink degree. Even quoted Marzoff. Never trust a social democrat who quotes Marzoff. Oh, and charity too. They love their charity. Offered me blankets and social housing. I still have the gas cooker he brought.
He suddenly remembers. And he let you be here.
Let me be here. The ZOC is an unlawful successor of the Commune of Revachol. We took this fortification from the Loyalists. Even the Clares understand this.
He looks around.
They let him be here. Understanding was a courtesy. But why such a courtesy?
Mr. Dross, did you kill the Cornell mercenary for the Clares? To incite a riot?
You know why I killed that fucker, Dwat. As to Edgar, I'm not doing anything for that swine again.
He shakes his head.
Again? What have you done for Edgar before?
Tried teaching him some Marzovian socioeconomics. They didn't stick. We parted ways.
He coughs.
Okay, he didn't do the hanged man for them. But he's insinuating something.
$72 is pretty good odds. The other check is a composure check. I can't put any more points into that, so I will put more points into logic, I think. That should be enough. What was the deal between him and Edgar?
The connection comes to you like a splash of cold water. Dark, cold water.
They had him kill the previous president of the Union. 20 years ago, when you met Edgar, the Clares didn't run the Union yet, did they?
Hey.
A sputter from the old man.
He acknowledges it. Here we go. A twist behind the dark bend.
Who did?
That bourgeois cow. Tiffin Holly was her name. Licked the rich man's hand every time he came to town. Never seen a labor leader so hot on mutual cooperation.
He narrows his eyes.
And money. She liked that too. That Holly was a real bridge builder and a deal maker.
His eyes glistened suddenly, with hatred. She was also a woman, wasn't she? Like that Klasia.
She was. And she was real soft on those money men. Had a Barbara Muskova bag over her shoulder that she liked to bring to work.
And then she just disappeared.
Called in, they say. On the eve of battle. Ran away. Vanished like a piss stain.
He squints and smiles at the black logs.
No, that's not quite it, is it?
Did she? They say her daughter called in, not her personally. But that wasn't really her daughter, was it?
The lieutenant's voice is calm.
No, I guess it was not.
You could swear you see the embers glow again under his eyes in the dust. Edgar had someone make the call. Why is that, Mr. Dross?
She couldn't make the call herself.
Here it is. The bend in the river.
Why?
Because she was dead.
Just say nothing.
Say nothing.
The cow caught a bullet in her right lung. Fell into the canal grasping her tit and drowned. Or bled. Hard to say. It was a sloppy job. And a moving target. She was going home. Waddling. Dressed in yellow. Drunk like she often was. The ruins were black around her, and she had a yellow leather bag under her arm. She tried to cross the canal, heading home to Grand Couronne or Betancourt, someplace like that, where they build those new bâtiments for the people who flourish in the hell around her, and the ruins.
You killed her.
Someone did. Or maybe the cow just fell. The past is blurry. All I know is...
His eyes grow cold suddenly. I should have said shot. Previously, I was supposed to say shot, not killed.
Nothing changed. Not in the material base. Not in the hegemony. There was no uprising. Just words. The Union fizzled. Sogged. Nothing came of it. Nothing.
Edgar didn't keep his part of the deal.
A sputter again. Nothing more.
If you were to testify to this, give the RCM something on Edgar, you could walk.
Lieutenant says in a voice even calmer, as if it were nothing at all.
We would strike everything you've done and process you as a POW. You were in a war. You were on assignment. We could even extradite you to the Samaran People's Republic.
A degenerate worker state. Goat shit. No, thank you. I'm Revacholian. My days are short. I will rot away here, in a moral intern cell. I will not testify to anything.
He spits, and then he coughs. But you did do it.
I saw it happen, and I liked it. That's all I have to say. I didn't live and fight for 40 years to end up as a collaborationist. I've heard it on Channel 8, 40 AM, Radio Revachol, late night. Everyone is a blobber in this world. Everyone betrays everyone. They're all already locked up for betrayal. The best ones, the ones with heart, were slaughtered, trampled.
He looks to the city.
The same old freezing hatred.
By the man parading in his colorful uniform, you mean Rene.
Every fucking morning for 34 years. Throwing that ball. One ball against the other. I've always loathed that game. That is not a working class game. I don't care what they say on Radio June.
He grinds his teeth in rage.
Royalist ghouls played like it was life itself. Click, clack across the water each day. And that uniform, like a parrot's plumage. I won't even mention that he's a traitor to his race. A petanque maniac Race traitor.
He makes the sound of balls connecting. Now, I don't know about...
I remember him. I remember him from Lanos. Not him, personally. His make and model. There were tens of thousands of them. I thought we took them all out before the liberals came to their rescue. We missed one.
He points to his black eye.
That one.
With a shaky finger, he points to the city, toward the crater near the plaza, where a lonely pine tree stands.
Fat and plump, like a pheasant, just begging to be popped off. Please, Mr. Dross, shoot me.
A grin stretches across his face, and he whispers, "You'd like to kill him?"
Not yet. I like to look at him strut around, place the crosshair on his medals, right on his face, and just fiddle the trigger. Think about it. Let the bomb melt in my mouth.
The smile lingers.
Save the treat for later?
Lieutenant asks cheerfully,
He is a juicy bonbon, that one. A real treat for the black day. The blackest. When I put that gun in my own mouth, I think. No, don't waste it. Put this lead in that cock, Rene. For the boys he killed. And then I look at him throw those balls, and I suddenly feel.
He lets out a wistful sigh.
Better. I even hid one bullet, so I'd always have one. For him. Haven't seen him around lately, strutting around. Must be down with arthritis. I hope it hurts like hell. I hope he sweats blood.
Lines on his face straighten as he looks inland. I'm gonna take this away from him. Rene is dead. He died of old age a couple of days ago.
No,
Yes.
I waited too long. I waited too long and now he's dead?
The old communard looks at you, his blackberry eyes shaking in disbelief.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dross. I understand you knew him for a long time.
Lieutenant says softly.
They're all dead now. Fuck it.
He just shakes his head.
If he really wanted to kill him so bad, he would have done. There must have been 1,000 black days on these islands. His health ailing.
You had 1,000 chances to kill him.
And I blew them all. What does it matter now? He's gone. Ancient dust.
He reminded him of himself. The same hatred. The same. You try to think of something else, but no. It's just hatred.
You cared about him.
All human beings care about each other. I cared for seeing his head explode. Now, God damn this world.
A little flash of anger. Are you okay, Mr. Dross? To go on.
You think I haven't seen people die? It's all I've seen them do. Fuck and die. All the other plans we had. To love. To colonize the Pale. It's all fucked.
He's not okay. This is just another black day in a row of black days. Something strange is keeping him together, making him endure.
I'm glad we talked about this. Now,
Glad we talked about what?
another erratic gesture. He's trembling. I want to ask again about the people you don't like.
His lip.
Glad we talked about what?
Alright, that's it for now, old man. Stay put.
I ain't going anywhere.
Alright. I'm going to call the episode here. It's been a very long episode. I'll swap out some clothes for the composure check that's coming up. And, because I can't put any more points into it here, I have to swap out articles of clothing to improve that check. So I only have one chance at it. Since I can't put more points into composure, I have to make sure I get it on the first try. Or do my best to get it. And then we'll rest him and continue with the game. Then super long episode, a lot to digest. He's an old, bitter communist. He's a pervert. I don't like this man. not one bit. We'll continue talking to him in the next one. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys in the next one.